and the topic of your pieces this week is minor. So we're taking our pieces and we're changing them into a minor 5-finger pattern. Up until this point, we've been playing in major, so our major pattern of tonic, whole, whole, half, whole. Music can be written in 12 major keys. We found that with most of our pieces being in covering all 12 keys. We found all 12 major key signatures. We know how to set our hands up in a major hand position. Now we're adding another flavor to that, minor. So a minor 5-finger pattern, your pattern is going to be tonic, whole, half, whole, whole. So what's happened is that these two steps have switched places. It gives us a little bit different sound. Listen, here would be a C major pattern. Tonic, whole, whole, half, whole. Now listen as I turn it into a minor pattern. Tonic, whole, half, whole, whole. So it's a distinct sound. It's a different sound. That third step is lower. Some people say that this gives minor a sad sound to it. Some people think it's dark. Some people think it sounds like more tension or unsettled. So this gives composers another choice when they're writing music. We've often talked about how our pieces need to tell a story, and especially if it's a piano piece without a singer, we don't have words to tell the story or to give the mood. So this is another way that a composer can get that mood across. If I was going to write a piece like today, the dark and gloomy day or the thunderstorm, I probably would choose to put it in a minor 5-finger position. That would give more of the sound that I would be trying to depict the thunderstorm or the rain or the cloudiness or the lack of sun. So your first step on page 113 here is to practice finding these 5-finger patterns. And if you think back to how we practiced our major 5-finger patterns, use the same practice strategies. So start with one hand. You could start with your left hand, and you could do them around the circle of fifths if you wanted, which was starting on that lowest C, tonic, whole, half, whole, whole. Now with our minor pattern. Looking at that thumb, which is a G, replacing it with finger 5, and now building G minor. Tonic, whole, half, whole, whole. So I could proceed all the way around my circle of fifths, ending up with F minor at the top. That's a great way to practice, then going back and doing it with your right hand. Maybe you liked practicing your patterns chromatically, which meant doing every key right in order. So maybe again you want to practice your C minor, maybe when you get your hands together, tonic, whole, half, whole, whole. And if I'm going to move chromatically, then the next one I would build would be C sharp. Tonic, whole, half, whole, whole. So it's up to you how you want to practice them, but you do want to make sure that you practice all 12. Once you've found your hand positions, I really encourage you to use the pattern that's on page 113. They have you going up and down your pattern in quarter notes, and then the third measure is eighth notes, so going twice as fast there, and then they're ending with, you can see, a C chord. So our C chord, up until this point, we just talked about this last week, how our C chord could be identified as a Roman numeral 1 chord. In minor, it's still identified as a Roman numeral 1 chord because C is that root and C is the first note in my hand position. But notice that for minor, I am going to identify that with a lower case Roman numeral. So there you can see that 1 there. Okay, so once you've practiced all 12 keys, then you're going to be ready to put these hand positions to use in pieces. So we have two things that we need to discuss when you're looking at your pieces. And I'd like you to look at the pieces on 113, 114, and 115 for today. The first topic is going to be, how do I know if it's major or minor? So I'm going to need to look at my key signature. So if I'm looking at my key signature for the first piece here, which is Lettish Folk Song on 113, and I'm just going to draw the treble clef key signature. Remember, with key signatures, you do not need to figure out both treble and bass. Pick which one you're more familiar with. The first thing you're going to do is figure out what the major possibility is. So 1 flat we know doesn't work for our trick. So 1 flat is the major key of F. So I'm going to put F, and I'm going to put a capital M to signify major, since we've got 2 different types now. Now, to figure out what minor key that would be, you go down 3 half steps from your major key center. So if F is my major key, and I encourage you to do this on a keyboard if you've got a keyboard. If not, find a picture of a piano. There's many of them in your book so you can count down. If I'm going down 3 half steps, 1, 2, 3, I'm landing on a D. So that tells me that this key could be F major, or it could be D minor. Notice that I am putting the D and the M in lowercase. Lowercase meaning minor. All right, so Lettish folk song. It could be F major, it could be D minor. I still don't know which one to set up. Where am I going to look? I'm going to look at the very end of the piece, because a piece is always, always, always going to end on tonic. Otherwise, it doesn't feel finished. It doesn't sound finished. It's like that book that's missing the last chapter. So if I look at the very last measure of Lettish folk song here, and I look at the very last beat, I can see that my left hand is ending on a D. My right hand has a chord with the root, or the lowest note, being a D. So that is telling me that this is D minor. So I would probably circle what it is, write it at the beginning of the piece. So to set this piece up then, tonic, whole, half, whole, whole. Tonic, whole, half, whole, whole. So setting up that minor position, making sure that you've got that correct pattern. You may have noticed that the only difference between a major and minor pattern is that 3rd finger. That 3rd finger is the one that's half a step lower. So some people prefer to think of it that way. So then I'm ready to tackle Lettish folk song. I would probably learn 1 hand at a time. Notice with the left hand, you have a minor 1 chord. 1, 1. Look at the 4th measure. Here's that chord at the neighbors on the top, and that 5th finger dropping half a step. There's that 5-7 chord that we worked on with lead sheets last week. Your 5-7 chord in a minor key, 99% of the time you're going to have an accidental there, making it a major 5-7. In other words, it's going to feel the spacing just like how it felt in a major key. When you go on to the other pieces in this unit, Hungarian folk song, work through it the same way. I've got a key signature of 2 sharps. So right here, if I take a look at that last sharp, which is C sharp, I go up half a step. This tells me that this could be the key of D major. Now I need to find what my minor possibility is. 1, 2, 3. 3 half steps down lands me on a B. So D major or B minor. If I look at the end of Hungarian folk song, my right hand is on a B. My left hand is playing a chord with that lowest note or the root being a B. So this is telling me B minor. If minor key signatures aren't making sense to you, if you're having a hard time figuring out what the minor tonic is, please reach out. I'd be happy to go over it again over email. I'd be even happier to FaceTime or Zoom you and talk about it in person. It's really important that you know how to figure out the key and how to set your hands up correctly. So all 4 of these pieces on 114 and 115 should be in a minor hand position. You should have tonic, whole, half, whole, whole.